Good morning, CFH athletes. Hey, yesterday and Thursday I spent quite a bit of time covering the clean and jerk with a few people in classes. I don't get to teach all of the classes, but I thought that I would put together a video of some things that specifically Leo and I were working on yesterday. So I love the clean and jerk. I love doing power cleans and jerks. I can't stand the snatch, but there are some similarities between the two. So whenever we're talking about weightlifting, we're just talking about the clean and jerk and snatch. So hopefully this video is going to help you guys a little bit. All right, so when I approach the barbell, what I do is I walk up and I place the widest part of my foot under the barbell for a clean and jerk. There's going to be some variance there, but pretty much it's going to be like the widest part of my foot underneath the barbell, or sometimes my first shoelace. I always kind of go through a routine. I do a checklist, like a pre-flight checklist. So right now in this position, I'm working on digging my toe in, balancing weight on my feet, making sure my spine is nice and straight. I'm getting braced and tightened up. My routine is I typically grab with my right hand first. I have my wrist wraps on. Use them if you want to, you guys. I have a right knee brace on. My weight is balanced here. So I grab right, I grab left, I get a bit of mobility here, and I'm just trying to find the right position that I want to be in for the amount of weight that I have. This is only about 190 pounds here. So I'm going to vary my start position sort of based on how light or how heavy the barbell is. Now here's my setup position, and in my setup I got to be strong. Like, I got to be tight. I've already taken a big inhale. I'm really braced inside of the core. I'm lengthening out my spine, and I want to be sure that the shoulders are either on top or slightly in front of the barbell. Regardless, I want the shoulders higher than the hips. I don't like to set up in a deadlift position. I want my butt lower than my shoulders. Now my weight is balanced. Some coaches I hear quite a bit say that they want your weight on the heels, and I don't like that. You don't jump off your heels. When you get into extension, you jump on your toes. I don't want to be on my toes in my setup. I want to be balanced. I want to be super, super balanced. When I go into my first pull here, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. In the first pull, right here, let's pause this thing. I pull that barbell up to my knees, but it's tricky. So my knees have to press a little bit backwards. So I'm not just doing a deadlift, I'm pressing my knees back as I lift my hips and the shoulders at the same time. So a lot of times in here we have what's called a scoop, and I don't like that term scoop. I hear some fitness pros say you want to scoop the barbell up around the knees, and you don't want to do that. I want to press the knees backwards out of the path of the barbell. If I lift that barbell straight up, then it's going to come too far away from my body. But if I can press the knees backwards a little bit and raise the hips and the shoulders at the same time, that's going to allow the barbell to stay very, very close to the body. And that's always what we're going for on a clean and jerk. So in this next frame right here, you'll notice that the barbell is a little bit higher. Before, the barbell was right under my knees, and now it's above my knees. So I went from that first pull to the knees into kind of what's called a transition here. So now the barbell is above my kneecap, and this is a transition. So I still haven't really maximized my full, violent, powerful upward explosion just yet. I'm getting to that point, but when you pull that barbell from the ground right up to the knees, that's your first pull. That's your hips coming up, your back angle is staying the same from the bottom position up to this transition. So you see the angle in my back here is about the same as it was when I started out. This is where, like, if you raise your butt, that's when we get into like stripper butt. If you keep the shoulders down and you just straighten out the legs and your butt comes up but shoulders down. So I don't want a stripper butt. I want to keep that nice positive angle inside inside of my spine. Now check out the knees also. The knees aren't forward, the knees are out. Now I've gone from that transition phase where the barbell is above my knee up into my power phase. So I'm still keeping that barbell super close to the body. I'm really pulling it back. You see the barbell doesn't leave contact. It's in light contact. You can see kind of my left short there is riding up a bit. And really importantly here, you guys, the arms stay straight. We don't want to let the elbows bend, because when the elbow bends, the power ends. In this phase right here, when the elbow bends, the power ends. You have a lot more strength inside your legs and glutes than you do in your biceps. So you don't want to turn this into a reverse curl. Now here, I want to cover that again, but we go into violent upward explosion, catching it on the shoulder into a power clean. But let's cover that some more. This is a critical part of the lift. So this is your second pull, and I don't coach this too much in my classes, but this is your second pull. Um, my arms are still straight, and I'm going to coach that. I want the arms nice and straight. And you can see I'm getting my head back out of the way. My chest is still up, nice and tall. The barbell is not too far away from my body, and I'm getting up on my toes. I'll get to a point where my knees and hips are fully extended. I'm not there quite yet on this lift, but this is called triple extension, when you extend out of the ankle and the knees and the hips. My shoulders are back behind the barbell, and I'm still continually driving the knees outwards. You hear a lot of people yell, knees out, knees out, knees out, and what that means is you're turning on the butt, and the butt kind of pushes the knees out. So you're using more muscle mass out of the butt, and not just the hamstrings and the quads and the calves and all of that stuff. So drive the knees out, get up into that full extension, but still really critical here, you guys, when the elbow bends, the power ends. So keep those arms nice and straight. So I've executed my violent upward explosion. I've straightened out my arms. I've straightened out my legs with my arms staying straight for as long as possible. Now, at this point, I'm fully extended and I'm diving back underneath the barbell. So the barbell is not going to get much higher than that. So you see that it's right at about my belly button. Your belly button is roughly your center of mass for most people, where 50% of your weight is above and 50% of your weight is below your belly button. So it doesn't need to come up too much higher than that. If you're lifting it all the way up to your chest, then the barbell is definitely too light, and you're working way too hard. So you don't need to lift that barbell really any higher than the belly button. On these lifts, you want to be divers, you guys, not necessarily drivers. You want to dive under. How fast can you dive underneath your barbell? I heard something from a coach: every time you have slow elbows on a clean, a baby kitten dies. So after you get up into that full extension, you want to have very fast elbows. Rip those elbows underneath the barbell so that bar is going to land right on your collarbone. Fast elbows means a great lift. So I've just caught it. That dive under is sometimes referred to as your third dive also. So just caught it here. Now we're going to get set up for the jerk. So I want you to watch something here. It's kind of subtle. You see how I elevate my whole shoulder complex right here? So I want to create as much height on that barbell as possible. So I'm going to give myself a big inhale, raise the shoulder complex, and elevate that bar as much as I can. I don't want to have to press it any more than I have to. Remember, guys, this movement only takes about 10,000 reps or 10,000 hours to perfect, and I'm still learning. So I've begun my descent downward. I don't want to just dip at the knees, but I want to have flexion in the knees and in the hips. I have a challenge coming upward on most of my jerks. So as you're dipping, you stay vertical. I want you to imagine your back just staying straight down like you're flat up against a wall. When you come up into your extension, remember I was talking about triple extension, so I want you to get up on the tippy toes, get the knees and the hips all the way straightened out, just like you're jumping up. So in these movements, your feet have to leave contact with the ground. I'm pressing my head backwards, so again, I'm not scooping that bar out in front of my head. I want it to stay as vertical as possible. That means that I have to drive my head back out of the way of the barbell and let it drive upward violently on the first part of the jerk here. So this is all legs, you guys. This is all glutes, quads, hamstrings, even the calves are engaged here. And let's slow it down here a bit. So you remember that we're diving underneath the barbell. So I want you to notice how fast I descend underneath the barbell here. I'm trying to be a diver, not so much a driver. So we're going to dive down, 3, 2, 1, here, hold and pause. Lots of stuff going on here, you guys. Like I said, your feet have to leave the ground, but I think one of the common faults that I see a lot with athletes is their foot positioning. Oftentimes, either their lead leg is going forward first and their back leg doesn't move at all, or they drive their back leg backwards and their front leg doesn't move at all. So I want you to be able to split both feet a good 10 inches forward. So I want your left foot to go forward about 10 inches. I want your right foot to go back about 10 inches if your left is your strong side. I'm right side dominant. For me, that means I feel best when my right leg travels backwards. That front toe, ideally, I want it to point a little bit inward. Shift it a little bit inward so you're not kind of on a balance beam. I don't have my feet directly on a balance beam. I'm underneath my shoulder complex, but I want that front toe drifted inwards just a touch. And what kind of a position am I in here, you guys? I'm in a nice lunge position, right? So I get into that lunge position, half step forward, half step back, and finish in full extension. 10,000 reps. That's all it takes.